going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Liam 501st channel. And today I have a very special guest with me. I want you to meet Jordan. How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm doing okay. How about you, Liam?
Good. And over Thanksgiving break, you sent me a very interesting video. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that is what we are talking about today. We are talking about what is the point of rated R superhero movies. And we're going to be giving our thoughts on this video. So what are we talking about? Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so we're talking about this video right here by Patrick H. Willems. Right here,
Willems, actually.
Willems. Okay, and it is what's the
Willems.
point of rated R superhero movies? Jordan, you sent me this video over Thanksgiving break. It's about a 42-minute video. What are your thoughts, man, on this? Because you sent me this, and I want to get your thoughts.
Well, I really like this guy's work. I actually discovered his stuff about a year ago, and it was right around the time when I was starting to actually get like kind of serious about like talking about films and stuff. And I started watching his video essays, and I found them very like interesting. And there's certain things that I don't like agree with him on, but like at the same time, I still think he brings up a lot of interesting points, and he doesn't do like reviews of things. He actually does more video essays where he analyzes something and he actually talks about, like cuz he's a film major, and I think he minored in film analysis. So he knows how to talk about like what sort of like camera angles depict certain emotions and stuff, and the frame and lighting and the way everything is shot and everything, and he does that with any kind of film. He actually talks about a lot of like different movies that most people wouldn't actually talk about like on YouTube. Like he actually does get very, I find his stuff very fascinating. And he does have a lot of opinions about superhero movies. He's a big comic book nerd. He loves the Marvel and DC universes and stuff, particularly in the comics. So I find his stuff pretty interesting when it comes to this.
All right. I hadn't quite heard of this guy until you showed me his video. I haven't watched any other of his videos, but I watched the video. It was really interesting. He brings up a lot of interesting points. The big point that I thought really hit home that he brought was when he was talking about Deadpool, because the Deadpool obviously was a huge success. We've both seen it.
Yep.
It's a great movie, and one of the big things about it. Yeah, definitely. One thing about it, though, is that it was different. It showed that superheroes can exist in a rated R environment.
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
The big thing that he then went on to is that James Gunn posted right after that because of the success of Deadpool, it doesn't teach filmmakers that, oh, we need to branch out to different ideas. It's no, we need to make things more like Deadpool. And that's what we saw.
Like films like Deadpool and, it breaks the fourth wall and that kind of stuff.
Yes. And something that I was reminded of when he said that was when David Ayer, who directed Suicide Squad, when he would talk about his film and how it was changed, how Warner Brothers got involved and changed it up. He originally wanted to go with a very dark idea that mirrored what Nolan's tone in the Nolan film, or in the Dark Knight films. And because of the success of Deadpool, Warner Brothers stepped in and had him change all of his stuff, and it ended up how it get like a comedy, a jokes, and a big action flick, that type of stuff. And I still enjoy Suicide Squad, but he does go into detail about how it was changed a lot, and that was what began the fall of the DCEU, the Snyderverse.
Yeah. Well, we both have very different opinions on those.
Yes, we do have very different opinions on the Snyderverse. The next thing I wanted to ask you about was, do you like agree with? What are the things you like agree with some of his points that he brings up? Like, for instance, he's like, "What's the big deal?" And you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. But the thing for me, I the thing that bugs me, because I always say this: you can make something dark and gritty and stuff, but there has to be a purpose to that. There has
Yes.
to be a purpose and something that's driving that darkness. Like, for example, Logan, which, in my opinion, is like one of the greatest superhero movies and one of my favorite movies
That
ever.
was rated R.
And yes, that was rated R. But there was a purpose behind why it was rated
Mhm.
R. And a lot of that was because of the violence and stuff, but it was also because the story is taking, he says it in the video, they took he it takes away sort of the fantasy element of, sort of the romanticized elements of like a superhero and stuff like that, the glory, the good versus evil, and grays it up a little bit. And also, and it also it's set in a world where it is just depressing and sad, and this character, these are his final, I'm assuming everybody's seen Logan who's watching this. It's, it takes place during a very depressing time in this guy's life, in his final days, and he's just like, I'm accepting my own mortality now, and I'm just like, I'm ready to go. Like, and
Yeah.
it's kind of fascinating that a character, we all have that desire. I think every one of us, I feel like, has kind of questioned the ideal of our immortality, and stuff, and has that kind of that inkling, like, fear of death in some ways. um but here's a guy, it puts us in a situation where this character just is like, I'm ready to go. I'm done. I've done what I need to do. I am slowly dying inside anyway. I'm ready to go. So the darkness of that film served a purpose.
Yes.
And I mean, I know it's technically not rated R, but I even say The Dark Knight kind of dealt with those themes of, walking that line of, of who Batman is. He's a vigilante, or is he like a silent hero? And he walks, and it shows the line that he walks, and it also shows the contrasts between who he's parallels to. In that movie, Harvey Dent is the White Knight of Gotham, and the Joker is just this insane, crazy, representation of anarchy. Um, but yeah, so I always say that the darkness has to serve a point. And I mean, and sometimes, and not to get too, like, disagree and stuff like that, but there, some of the DC movies that came out, I personally was not a big fan of some of the earlier, like, DC EU films, like Man of Steel or
Right.
Batman versus Superman. Um, and a lot of, and I get those movies brought up interesting, like, topics and ideas and stuff, but I felt like there was too much of an emphasis on making the style dark and violent and stuff like that,
Yeah.
as opposed to trying to make more of the story. Maybe less with Man of Steel, but more with the Batman versus Superman.
Right. And
Especially with the R-rated cut of that.
yeah, have you seen the R-rated cut yet?
I have yet to see the R-rated
Uh,
cut,
one of
but
the things
I
actually,
heard it's really good though,
yeah,
and I have
I
some
have
good things
seen
about
the
it.
original cut twice, when I saw it in theaters, and then when I bought the Blu-ray, and then after I watched it the second time, I watched the R-rated one, and I realized it's much better
Yeah,
than the original cut. And one of the things I didn't notice, and that the guy points out in the video, is that one of the scenes where Batman, like, uses his grappling hook to
yeah.
throw the box at the guy, in the original cut, he hits the wall and falls down. But in the
Hmm.
ultimate cut, when he hits the wall, there's blood in the back. I didn't notice that, or I didn't notice that was a change. And that
Yeah.
brings us to the point that usually the reason for the R rating is because of the violence.
Hmm.
The reason that I believe Batman v Superman the Ultimate Cut has an R rating is because of the extra violence. Like, there's some extra dark and violent stuff, that a few extra things that go into the ultimate cut that I guess warrant the R rating. And when the ultimate cut was announced for Batman v Superman, there was a YouTube video from Mr. Sunday Movies that I
Okay.
watched about it, and he was like, "Okay, I'm all for it as long as it like there's a purpose towards it. Like, don't do it just to put the R rating in." Like, one of the reasons he's like, "Hey, don't do it just to have an extended romance scene between Clark and Lois. That's not a reason to give the R rating. The extra added violence, in my opinion, would." And then the other R-rated movie I wanted to go over from the DCEU is Birds of Prey. Have you seen Birds of Prey?
I have not. I keep hearing so many mixed things about it, though.
Okay.
Like, there's
Well,
some people I know who really like it and think it's really good, and then there's other people who think that it's like a pile of garbage. And I'm just like, if anything, it's kind of made me want to see the movie even more because I'm just like, I want to have an opinion on it
yeah.
now. Like,
Well,
it's kind of like with the Mulan remake. Like, everybody's like, oh, it's so good, or oh, it's so bad. Like, I'm just like, I gotta have an opinion now. I gotta see it.
I saw it over the summer with Redbox, and I did not like it. I thought that Ewan McGregor's Black Mask was a complete wasted potential.
That's one of the criticisms I heard of
And
it, though.
how he goes out is, I'm pretty sure, one of the reasons why it's rated R. But I think the big reason is how many curse words are in the movie. And to me, that was like, what was the point of making this rated R? Just so you could drop a couple extra F-bombs? It did not make as much sense, in my opinion, as versus the BVS R rating.
Mhm.
And yeah, he also points out, the YouTuber points out the fact that there are a ton of people, and I didn't realize this was like a big campaign that people are trying to get, like campaigning to have more R-rated superhero movies. Like, he pointed out that people on Twitter and such are campaigning for the Batman that's coming out in 2 years to be rated R.
I think it's coming out next year, or they must have pushed it. I don't know.
I think they delayed it to 22, but
Okay.
it would only work if it calls for it. Like, Batman to me is the best. If you want to make a rated R superhero movie, Batman is the perfect choice if you have to make it rated R.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be, because he's been dark and gritty in PG-13 movies, like you mentioned with The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm. The thing with Batman especially is that there's been for me, there's not a really strong continuity with Batman because there have been so many different interpretations of the
Yes.
character and stuff, particularly in like the films and stuff. I always say, like, I love a lot of the different interpretations. I think, well, two of my favorite movies are The Dark Knight and the original '89 Batman with Michael Keaton. That's a classic in my opinion.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's great.
That was my first Batman movie.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then I think it was Batman Returns and then 66.
Yeah. Well, actually, so fun fact, I grew up with so I started watching Batman through the Adam West show. And I would watch that with my dad all the time. Me and him loved the Adam West show. And then when it was time to start watching the movies, because this was before the Nolan movies came out, before Batman Begins and stuff. The first Batman movie that my dad showed me was Batman and Robin. That was the first Batman movie. And as a kid, I loved it because, hey, it's Batman and Robin, and it's cool, and stuff. And it was close to the Adam West show. So to me, I'm just like, oh, this is what Batman is. Yeah. And then I think he tried showing me the '89 movie first, and then I was like, this is dark. I don't like this. And then I saw the Nolan movies, and I was like, oh, this is different. And then I started watching those, and I was like, and then Dark Knight came out, and I was just like, oh, this is great. This is awesome and stuff. And then I saw the Tim Burton movies, and those are fantastic and everything. So I feel like there was that evolution of, like, hey, liking that kid-friendly stuff and then easing you into the darkness.
I think,
but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that brings up a really good point, because at first we have to, when, like, for instance, characters like Batman and Superman, when they first started, they weren't dark. And that's what this guy brings up, is that they weren't
Exactly.
dark at first. The 66 show is probably the least dark out of all of the
Oh, absolutely.
versions of Batman we've gotten. It's for kids.
Yeah.
But I think that is where we start to get our point, is that over time, these characters, especially Batman, he started to become more dark because it works well with the story. He's a character. He was a kid when he lost his parents, and over time, he got, in that sense, it works for that character because it can be dark and gritty because of his war on crime. Like, have you played the Arkham games?
I have not played the Arkham games, but I have seen. I've watched. I like watching like cutscenes to video games.
Oh yeah,
and I've watched a lot of the cutscenes for the Arkham video games, and they are insanely violent, and I kind of love it for that. Like, I would much rather just watch those and not play the games, but I hear the games are fun too, and I'm not much of a gamer though. That's the only thing. But yeah, no. The thing with and I think a lot of it comes down to, I think everybody, and it's funny because really off topic, but I'm gonna kind of tie it in.
Okay.
I, the Disney live action remakes.
Of course. Here we go.
I'm not a huge fan of a lot of them. I think.
Stay tuned. I'm gonna have my friend here, Jordan, give you a nice long video of him ranting about all the movies.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. I cannot wait for
1 million views guaranteed.
Exactly. But I'm not a big fan of those, but a lot of people like wholeheartedly love those movies. And a lot of people bring it up. The reason is the nostalgia. They have that nostalgia. They grew up with it, and you grow up, you want to relive that nostalgia, and you want to like hold on to your childhood and stuff. And I think for a lot of these, a lot of comic book fans and stuff, they hold on to these characters since they were kids, and they want these characters to evolve with them and evolve with their tastes and stuff, because, and this guy, and Patrick Willems, I think, brings up a very good point. It's like, if you want an something that's made for an adult, go watch an adult movie, instead of demanding a comic book movie be made to please the adult you. Like, go watch something that has more of an adult element to it that actually, and I don't now. Sometimes the thing with Patrick Willems is that, and I love his stuff, and I listen to what he says, and I agree with a lot of his opinions. I feel like sometimes he has to do that YouTube game of where he has to kind of have a character, and I think his character is to kind of be this like stuck up, like snooty, like guy that's like, oh, I know all this stuff about film and everything and blah blah blah, but. And he has to exaggerate it a little bit. So I feel like some of his opinions may be a little like exaggerated, and he does come off a little bit at times kind of like a smug asshole when he says that. But at the same time, he's not wrong. Like, he makes a very good point.
The brutal truth.
Yeah, he makes a very like a good point of just like, hey, if you want to see something that's geared toward you, go instead of like demanding something be made that's essentially for, that's geared toward, younger people, geared toward kids or something like that. You can, instead of demanding that be made into something more adult oriented, quote unquote, more adult, go watch something that's made for adults then,
Yeah.
But
and that actually brings me into another example that I saw, is that there was this Twitter user. He works for Forbes. He's a big shill. He's a big Disney shill. He shills over everything Disney makes. His name is Scott Mendelson. And when Justice League,
I've heard of this guy.
Yes,
I've heard of him.
When Justice League 2017 came out, he praised it, saying that it was just like Saturday morning cartoons. That's how much he enjoyed it. And then when we got the announcement of the Snyder Cut, and the first trailer, he took to Twitter and decided to say, this looks like the same movie. And these people who have been anti-Snyder Cut have been saying this movie's going to looks like the exact same thing. It's only going to be like, oh, it's going to be like an extended cut. This is going to be an entirely different movie from all accounts. And Zack Snyder, being the epic savage he is, responded to this guy and said, when Scott called the Snyder Cut just like the same movie with additional shots, he's like, you said you enjoyed Justice League like your Saturday morning cartoons. Well, this movie is made for grown-ups, so you're not the target demographic.
Damn.
Yes. It was absolutely savage, and that just makes me respect him even more. And that's the thing, though, is that some of these, like, for instance, the Nolan films, I don't think they have a target demographic. They're made for everybody, I think. Just like Star Wars and the Marvel movies. They are for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And the Zack Snyder films, in my opinion, Man of... Well, I only saw these movies when I was like older, so I wasn't like a kid anymore. But I would say that you could show a kid Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, and everything would be fine. No, there's nothing like super violent in it, like Deadpool. And for instance, don't show your kids Deadpool until they're older.
Yeah. But parents are going to do it anyway. I work at a daycare, and I've had kids come up to me saying, "I saw Deadpool." I'm like, "Why? You're not supposed to see that." But hey, they're,
Yeah. So I think the essential thing is the point of the rated R superhero movies is to tell a story that you couldn't tell if you had the barrier of being PG-13. You get to do a little bit extra with like the violence and the dark tone, in my opinion. So what is your overall thought? What do you think is the point to close us out?
The point to close you out. Well, I will say this. I actually really did like his sort of solution to to this, instead of making like characters that, and simultaneously having characters be in something that's only geared toward adults, and also have it be on like kids' lunchboxes and kids' shirts and stuff like that, and like, and that kind of stuff. Instead of that, create new characters and new stories to tell for adults, like new superhero characters and stuff like that. That's only made for adults.
Isn't that like what The Boys are doing?
Yes, and he did bring that up.
Much more violent.
The video, yeah. I have not seen The Boys, but I hear
I have neither, but I've heard it's pretty gritty.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And that R rating, even though it's a TV show.
Yeah, and I don't know the exact if this was more for a mature audience anyway, but I started watching Doom Patrol on HBO Max, and that, I feel like, to me, is very, like, those characters feel very adult oriented. But then again, I'm not too familiar with the source material for that, so I don't know if it's inherently.
I had never heard of Doom Patrol prior to it being announced.
Yeah, but so I hear a lot of those characters are geared mostly toward adult. Well, the show itself feels like is made more for an older audience and stuff. So I don't know, but quote me if I'm wrong. I don't know, but correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, but that, I feel like if you're going to do stuff like this, it's best to create something new, and it gives people the opportunity to create something new. Like, I'm tired of seeing like characters like repeated over and over again, because I feel like half the time we're not given like new angles and stuff like that. Like, if anything, it's like a slight twist, I guess. But like, tell a different story with different characters that we haven't seen before, or like, or make it different, Yeah, that's my opinion on it, and if you're gonna make it dark and gritty, like I said, make it have a point.
Definitely. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me. This has been quite the discussion. Guys,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts in the comments? Be sure to leave them down there. What are you guys? What's the point of rated R superhero movies to you? What's your favorite? Mine, of course, is the BVS Ultimate Cut. Jordan, how about you? I bet it's Logan. Is it Logan?
Yes. Yeah,
Logan?
Logan is
Nice.
definitely my favorite, like, R-rated superhero movie. It's a
Certainly.
classic. It's great. But it's also a Western, too, so that's one of the reasons why I think it works so well.
Right.
But yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.
Bye!